The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And here we are on Friday. We got a lot to talk about. Before we do, CJ, just want to touch base. On the last show, I went on I talked about an issue that I'd been called out on, and we always give you the full disclosure here. And to his credit, Mr. Sylvia, John Sylvia, who I called out and said, call me and talk to me face to face, he did. And we had a meeting, and we discussed the issue, and I told, I reiterated the position I took, that I was not Bob Camara. I was the PEC rep talking for 2,000 retirees, and I would seek anybody's help in getting it, and the city was on our side, and it wasn't any kind of hypocrisy. It was just expediency. If I negotiate with the city, and the city administrator who I'm negotiating against takes a position with me, of course I'm going to say it. So it was out of context what the quote he wanted to show me the thing out of context. So we had a long sit down, actually. We had a long talk for about an hour, which proves our point. If we have a thesis and an antithesis, if people sit down, sometimes debate can actually create a new synthesis. So I really never had a conversation with Mrs. Sylvia, and so now we know, we're on pretty, I think that we know each other a little bit better. He actually apologized for putting it and said I probably shouldn't have written that, and and he understood that, which is great. And he also showed me the Facebook threads that I responded to, and that's one of the reasons I don't go on Facebook. These endless banters between, you have to go back like 65 different comments, and that's why I don't do Facebook, because to me, that's why I'm a face-to-face guy. But the bottom line was that he understood. He said he probably shouldn't have done that. He apologized, and I told him fine. I said, I reacted to that, and my position remains the same. But I think we understand each other better, and I think from now on, I don't think we'll have a problem, because he and I have now, he understands the way I operate. I told him, I said, if I take a personal position and you don't like it, fine, you can say anything you want, and I'll defend my position. But if I'm there in my capacity as a retirement board member, or as a PEC member speaking for retirees or employees, you have to realize that, and he did. He actually said in his job he has to do some things. So when you're on the job, and you have to do your job, and if that means having an alliance with someone who you normally don't agree with, well, you got to get the job done. And when I'm advocating for somebody, that's the way it is. So with that, okay, we got, but I will give credit where credit is due. I don't want anybody, any of his people who said that, that I called him names and things. So, and I did call him the same names, in front of them. I'm not afraid of that. And I have to say, and he can corroborate this, I did get him one last jab about his egg analogy. I said, you will never get out from under that with me. So, but no, I think we understand each other a lot more. He understands it. As we say on this show all the time, CJ, and I think it's very important that personal is personal and business is business. I was conducting business in front of that committee meeting, the business of the retirees and their problems with the health care. And when you're in business, you have to make any alliances that is necessary to get the job done. And your personal positions are your personal positions. So with that, let's get out. We got some busy stuff here
we
today.
do. But the first thing I want to be sure that our viewers understand, because as you and I both know, our phones, our emails have been ringing off the hook and getting blasted. If you're providing tips to this show at either our email address or calling on the phone We don't care if your number's blocked. We don't care if we know who you are. We don't, as a matter of fact, we don't want to know who you are. Okay? Understand, your information will be made public to the viewers, to the city of Fall River, to anyone that watches our show. Doesn't mean we're going to say, John Smith gave us this. We will do everything that we can legally to protect your identity if we find out who it is. But that's why we say, don't tell us. Stick it in an envelope and throw it in my yard, okay? Stick it in the envelope, throw it in Chip's yard. We'll find it. We don't care.
Yeah, you're right.
But don't be afraid. I mean, because fear is the way that government keeps you in check. And there's nothing to fear. To quote an old quote, the only thing to fear is fear itself.
That's right, CJ.
And believe me, Chip's somebody to be feared sometimes, but even I don't fear him anymore because I take his lessons very well. So please, keep your tips coming. We follow up on every one of them, and if we can confirm them, besides just what you provided us, we do report on it. And we want to let you know that you are making the change in Fall River by providing those tips.
Yeah, you're right, CJ, and I'll reiterate that. The fact is that actually I look, the other side of the coin, there are some people that call and want us to say that they were the people who gave us the information, and that's fine. If you really want us to do that, we'll do it. But we're more concerned about getting to the bottom of issues, and if there's something, your anonymity will be protected. We prefer you to be anonymous. If you're worried about it and you're afraid to send us a tip, you know, like I said, by all means, call us. You know, drop something in our yard, or call us on a blocked phone, or do whatever you want to do, and you know, because it's not about you, it's about what you're saying. And if, as CJ said, if we can corroborate the information you give us, well, by all means, we're going to follow up on it, and we're going to do what's necessary. And CJ got calls, I get calls all the time from people, and you know, don't use my name and stuff. I said, well, don't even tell me who you are.
Exactly.
Because it's not necessary.
And for clarity, so people do know, the email address that shows up at the end of our show, which I believe is tips@scstonline.com, is a scrubbed email. So whatever you send in, we get it. But guess what? We don't get your name because we don't want it. So unless you actually type your name and contact information in the body of the email address, I have no idea where it comes from. Chip has no idea where it comes from. So we've done everything to make it safe for you, our tipsters. So enough with the public service announcement.
Okay.
Do we want to attack another recall that we're responsible for, or do we want to attack waste energy?
Well, I think the waste energy is a big subject. We should save that for last so we can give it sufficient time. So let's do the third recall after hours. Fall River. You know, we were #1 in something positive this time. We actually initiated some citizens to get upset with their government and rise up and try to change it. And what other city was this, CJ? Another
Lawrence.
one in Fall River's category.
Lawrence.
The only city that's worse than Fall River. The only city that has more people living below the poverty level and a lower household income in the state of Massachusetts. And look, they realized that they got this way because of their government. And so let's do this. Go ahead.
Well, just so people know, Saugus was #2.
Yep.
And when Saugus did it successfully, they came to several members of the recall team here in Fall River for information. They honestly did not ask for help. They just asked for how this recall team worked to get the items through the courts and everything else. But they did it on their own. Now Lawrence is doing the same thing. But they're taking the blueprint from the Fall River recall process that occurred here a year ago. So you can make a difference, Chet, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and Fall River did it. The first successful recall on December 16th, 2014, the anniversary of the Boston Tea Party. We had the Fall River Purple Bag Party. And now you have another one. After Saugus, you have Lawrence. And they're going to court. They're going to the appeals court. They're not even going to just, the Superior Court. They're now going to the appeals court. And it's amazing what these politicians won't do to keep their corrupt jobs. It's unbelievable. Did I just say that?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Well, I'm not apologizing for it.
Isn't it ironic that when you read this and it talks about the mayor is going to challenge the validity of voter affidavits, and God, it's like deja vu all over again, as the great Yogi Berra, rest his soul, used to say. It's deja vu all over again. They use every legal, stalling tactic and delaying tactic and every kind of they can do to stop the voters from affecting a change in government. And this is what this is why we need more of this stuff. This is why we need people to rise up, because the government has evolved to a point where they're self-perpetuating, and they make it as difficult as possible for the people to be heard, when in fact the Constitution of this state says they are always answerable to us. Yet they don't want to be, and they fight us tooth and nail. So it's good. And the other thing I really was, these public servants, I'm telling you, I guess the person who led this was a police officer, and this is a quote: "Some people expected and wanted a first-round knockout." Quote. That's a quote. William Green, a city cop who was leading the effort, these firefighters and cops, they're just
nothing but trouble.
Yeah, nothing but trouble. And then it says, "That's not what we're going to get. I knew we would have to go the distance, and the only issue is that we want a clean fight." Well, Bill, you're not going to get it, because you're dealing with politicians. I hate to tell you this. I might try to track you down later today and call you up and say, "Good work, guy. Keep the fight up. Keep the people angry, but don't expect a clean fight when you're dealing with politicians. It's not going to be clean. It's going to be dirty and long and ugly. But you know something? This is what we need."
Chip, I made this story very public to the original 13 signers of the affidavit to recall then Mayor Will Flanagan. And a couple of good ideas came out of it, which is something I've spoken about for a long time, because all recalls in the Commonwealth are done by special legislation. There is no recall law in state statute. Maybe if our elected nimrods don't want to enact a statewide mandate for recalls of every elected official, from governor all the way down to dog catcher, then maybe the people should put a binding question on the ballot, mandating a recall, that there is a form and manner that it has to be presented. And I think that would be the best way of doing it.
And I totally agree. However, I think it's futile, and I think the only way really would be a charter change in each individual city and town, because the reality is, and you know it as well as I do, CJ. Number one, it'll be very difficult to get it on the ballot, and if it does get on the ballot and wins, which I'm sure it will. Because the people, I think, really want to be heard. You see it throughout the country, not only in Massachusetts.
Oh, I know.
Throughout the nation in this election, we're seeing the electorate finally waking up. They're getting really, really, really wound up, and that's great. Let's take back our government. But the fact is, listen, we're going to allow, even if we put it on a ballot, it will go to the legislature for the legislation. And you know what's going to happen there? It's going to stay in committee for 700 years. And then when it does come out, they'll create legislation that makes it virtually impossible to have a recall. They'll have conditions like you got to get 98% of the voters to sign on the petition, and they'll make the process so cumbersome, so impossible, that it will be virtually, it will make recalls non-existent.
Right.
And that's the problem, because listen, if one thing government has proven right now is it is very, very good at protecting itself.
Two levers.
And that's right.
Two levers.
Fear and self-interest. All we have to do is go back and remember what happened many, many years ago at what they call the Halloween Massacre, when the legislature actually had to vote on its own pay increases.
Right.
And then and the people in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, when they called a special session on Halloween night to vote themselves a massive pay raise, that the people in the state revolted. So what did the legislature do? What did our great government do? They went, oh crap, we're not going to do this again. Let's figure out a way we can give ourselves a pay raise and never bring it back to these turkeys.
That's
because,
right.
They might say no and we won't get money.
That's right.
So what did they do? They passed legislation to have an automatic cost of living raise. That they tell themselves how much they should get. Which is, boy, I wish I could do that with my contracts. I wish I could do that with my pension, because the most I can get is $360 maximum in 1 year. That's less than $1 a day, and that's what it is legislatively for me. But yet they get a law that says they can give themselves as big a pay raise as they want. So this is the whole problem with it's like asking, the fox to negotiate with the chickens, or as I believe it was Genghis Khan that said, it is foolish for the sheep to talk peace with the wolf.
Yeah, and Chip, the thing is that we can look at a binding question, which did appear on our ballots back in the 1990s, which was to restrict terms of office for all elected officials. And it passed. The voters said, we want to restrict the terms of office, and it passed. And the House and the Senate took it to court. They got the Coalition for Women's Voter Rights to file a lawsuit saying that it was illegal to restrict terms of office. And the Supreme Judicial Court said, it's illegal. You have to get your elected officials to create a change in the Constitution to make that happen. So you try getting the House and the Senate to come together on a constitutional amendment and having a constitutional convention to change it. They're never going to do it.
Yeah, well, this is the point, right? We're asking the wolves to get rid of the chickens and the sheep, to get rid of their own fodder.
And and that's one of the reasons why I would like to see all judges in the state elected.
Oh,
okay? The reason being is right now they get appointed, and it doesn't matter what they do because they have a job for life. Yeah. But turn that around and make them elected, and then you're going to see. And this is why the defense attorneys don't want judges elected, because sentencing will not be based upon what the lawyers say it should be. It's going to be based upon what the public demands. Okay? So a child molester won't be getting 7 years probation on a GPS monitor and lifetime registration as a sex offender. He's going to get lifetime sentence to jail, okay?
No, you're right. And
which will probably last 3 weeks by the time they're done with him.
And in Nevada, they are elected. As a matter of fact, one of the best boxing referees to ever be a referee, Mills Lane, was a Reno judge, and he was a tough judge. But he was elected for 30 years as a sitting judge.
Right.
But as you said, when judges are answerable to the people, you see adequate sentencing. You don't see people with 42 drunken driving charges getting 2 months probation or something like that, and they're allowed to go back out on the street and kill people driving drunk. This is it. But with that, let's shoot over to a really biggie.
The political promise of the year.
The waste, our View article about the waste to energy is reused and a recycled idea. Go ahead, CJ. Take it away.
It's a truth. It's an absolute truth. This idea comes up every time we have an election process to deal with budgetary shortfalls, and the Herald News reported it as a 6-year-old report, and it is. It's a 6-year-old report touting waste to energy. We touted waste to energy 2 years ago, a year ago. Every year during the election cycle, this idea comes up, and every year it gets shot down. Now, I looked at a proposal recently, which doesn't look half bad. The problem is it can't go in the biopark because it's waste, deed restriction. It can't go in the industrial park because nobody in the industrial park wants garbage in the industrial park. So it can't go there. but there's no place in the city to put it because you can't put it on Lewiston Street. So where would you put it? Wait a minute, I have an idea. Weaver's Cove, the old LNG facility. Now, if you do this as a public-private opportunity, okay, the city can make money and the private enterprise can make money. And we can get energy out of the deal, electricity or whatever it may be. But again, this is Fall River. We're going to stick our head in the sand like we did 6 years ago and bury it, and hopefully everybody will ignore it. You know, the Solid Waste Task Force, you know, again, yes, you have to laugh about it, is a joke, okay? And when you look at the people who are on this task force, it makes it a bigger joke, okay? Your friend, he who walks on water from Somerset to Fall River, Dan Botello, Mike Mioza, who couldn't decide whether he wanted to be a city councilor or a charter commissioner, then he's not going to be a city councilor, he's going to not be a charter commissioner, now he's going to be a charter commissioner. You know, a man who has a history, by the way, of kind of walking away from a project when it starts getting too hot. Not that I'm calling Mike out, because Mike's been a wonderful individual. I've known him for a long time, but his history speaks for itself. And I don't care what excuse you have for it. The fact of the matter is, you have walked away from several projects and then gone back to them. I don't know if you had a change of mind, a change of heart, and you know, we all learn. But we knew, and we said this on our show when this task force came together, that nothing was going to happen. The report was going to be a joke. Nobody was going to see anything. We weren't going to see any changes, because God forbid we change anything that we're doing, that somebody might be out 12 cents, never mind $12. And we look at this and we say, Mr. Mayor, why did you form this task force? We just had this task force under the Flanagan administration, and they did nothing. And you put the same people in charge and you expect a different outcome?
Yeah, well, we know what that's the definition of, CJ. But you know what troubles me? And we are going to do something on Monday's show, because I know CJ...
There is no show Monday.
Oh,
Monday's a holiday.
Right. Monday's a holiday. Is it a holiday in Massachusetts?
Yes, it is.
Oh, my God.
It's a state and federal holiday.
Okay. Well, on Wednesday, CJ's unearthed very, very, amazing information about some of what's happening with a company that Fall River has hired. And this kind of segues into it, because, you know, it's like I'm looking at this. Just in time for Halloween, a 6-year report touting energy has been suddenly unearthed from the crypts of Government Center. And of course, we talk about it, it's from the career era. So, number one, what does that say about it says what we always say about task forces and things. They're nothing more than political delay tactics, and they always come out with a recommendation that favors whatever the mayor or whoever appointed them wants. It's like a study. You commission a study, and the study always comes out in your favor because you're the guy paying the bill. You know, and the reality is, my question is, how can we have confidence in this committee or any committee when Robert Carrere, former mayor, is part of the transition team, yet this committee was not aware of this report? It's just been suddenly discovered. So how much research? You know, they're going to talk about how diligent they were and how they looked into every aspect of this thing, and you know, we beat our heads against the wall and we weren't being paid, and Danny Botello's going to cry maybe on the air. Who knows? But you know, it's crap. It's absolute crap, because like they said, it's a reused, recycled idea, and if there's anything in that report, which I find difficult to believe, but there may be a few people on that report that might put something on there that the mayor doesn't want to talk about before an election, this report will not see the light of day, and those aspects will not see the light of day. And I'm going to read you verbatim from the RView article. What does this in-depth proposal say? Botello declined to give the Herald News any detail of the resurrected career era report, which apparently was top secret for 7 months that the task force had convened. Well, guess what? This is not the first time Dan Botello has said that they want to keep things secret. I seem to remember a campaign promise about transparency in government. Yet this task force that is working on an issue that affects every citizen in the city of Fall River, Dan Botello has gone on record as saying they don't want people to hear what they say in these meetings. And now, again, it's top secret. He doesn't want to give the Herald News any information. And he's holding that information till after the election. So I don't know what you're getting out of this, Dan, but as far as I'm concerned, you've lost a lot. You've lost a lot of credibility in my book. And I'm telling you right now, this is wrong. This is wrong. And you know, at this election, get to the polls. Let's get a change, because stop with the committees and the task forces and all the crap. It's just like the studies on the schools and millions of dollars. You need a new school, you need a new school. If I need a new roof, I call 5 guys and I get the bids and I look what they're gonna do and I pick. And they do it for free because they're looking to work.
Oh, what, you don't pay $10,000 a piece or $20,000 a piece?
$1 million for a feasibility study.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're going to do well, is it feasible? The building's collapsing. Well, is it feasible to replace it? No, just let it collapse and send the kids to school in a tent. We can put a tent alongside.
There you go.
And send them to school in a
Ringling
tent.
and Brothers, Bonham and Bailey School.
I mean, you know, it's ludicrous.
It is.
How government can waste our money. And believe me, if this was their house or this was their yard, there would be no task force. There would be an open debate, because if you're going to spend my money in my house, there would be a debate by everybody that's involved. And if there wasn't, there would be hell to pay. And the fact is, this is ridiculous. This whole thing only reinforces the fact that there has been absolutely no transparency in the Sutter government. You can't even find him, although now he's everywhere. He's ubiquitous. I mean, everywhere you go now, Sam's there. He's giving out hot dogs. I heard that I walked in City Hall for that committee meeting. There were tables all over the lobby. Apparently, they had coffee and pastry for everybody. So, actually, before we go, I got to quickly say, I can cure the welfare problem. We won't need welfare anymore if we do something. If we have an election bi-monthly,
that's it, you're done.
The politicians will feed everybody. We won't need food stamps anymore.
Exactly.
That's it. We can eliminate welfare. Just have a bi-monthly election for office, and you'll get all the chow mein sandwiches, Coney Island hot dogs, pastry, and anything you want. There's the cure to the EBT card.
There you go.
You know,
well, I only got a couple
millions.
of seconds. I only got a couple of seconds, Chip, but I read an article this morning in the Boston Globe about affordable housing, a way to fix homelessness, because everyone's going to motels, and there's a motel room shortage now because of it. And the governor is going to up the allotment from $6,000 to $8,000 a year for this emergency housing. But here's the reason why. Affordable housing is not available in a lot of communities because they fight against it. But communities like Fall River, New Bedford, and whatnot do not. And the reason they fight against it, it is not conducive to economic development. Who's been saying that?
Yeah, but we lie. And these people know we're going to be a tourist attraction.
I know. It's amazing, isn't it? But
angry,
we'll be talking more about that on Monday, Wednesday. We won't see you Monday. Have a great weekend.
Stay angry.
Definitely.